Hello, everyone. Happy Friday. How are you guys doing today? I am here ready to talk about some bonkers information. This is crazy. I feel like I have to start this video with this is a public service announcement. Do not drink the water in Idaho. I'm starting to wonder, are the potatoes in Idaho psychoactive or something? Because holy crap, what is going on? So I'm just going to wait a couple of minutes for all of you guys to enter the chat here. We have a lot to cover, and trust me, I have not forgotten. I know that a lot of you guys are waiting very patiently for me to make the video about Olivia Gonsalves. I believe her married last name now is Stevenson, and I will be doing that. Turns out that I only had an hour yesterday, and I promised I was going to make 2 videos, but actually, because I have ADD, I lost track of time, and yesterday's video ended up being closer to 50 minutes. So yeah, let's pull up the chat here on the YouTube. I'm hoping that the streaming will be fine. You guys know that sometimes when we try to do both on the phone and here, well, sometimes things get messy, right? Also, pardon me if my voice is a little raspy. Yesterday we had a couple of inches of snow here in Chicago, first snow of the year, and honestly, I'm not a fan, okay? I'm a hot summer girl. I like the sun. Let's see if I can pull up this chat. So for those of you who are slowly coming in here, welcome, welcome. Happy Friday. We have a lot to talk about. You definitely need to grab a drink. You might even need to grab a pen and paper. And if you have not watched my video I uploaded, I believe it was last week, on Professor Udekwu, a professor that was, how do I put this without getting sued? Let's see. A professor that was turned in by a student, a concerned student from U of I, saying that he believed that his professor, Professor Udekwu, was involved in the IDAHO4. And he said some very creepy things. The student said some very creepy things about the professor, right? So we're going to talk about this professor and this student yet again. So you need to go watch that video if you have not. Otherwise, this is not going to make any sense, and I'm not going to waste time for all of my viewers who are here constantly. So please go watch that video if you are new to the channel, or if you are new to the case, go watch that video and then come back here, because this, I don't know how it doesn't have more views, guys. Of course, I want to thank and give a shout out to Lana from Truth and Transparency, because I just watched the most jaw-dropping video camera footage that she retrieved from the police department regarding the interactions between Alex Sorrell, the student who reported this terrorist professor, to the cops, right? So there are some audio recordings, but the video footage of this professor opening the door, how he opened the door, go thank Lana. And of course, I'm going to thank you. You know who you are, because you sent me Lana's video on Instagram. So I went and watched it right now. It was a lengthy video. I watched parts of the video, and I urge everybody, go watch her video as well, after mine, of course, so that you get a grasp of what we're talking about. The visuals definitely tell a lot, in my opinion, right, about this professor. So let's see what the chat is doing today. Happy Friday, guys. Hi, everyone is here. The whole family is here. Don, hi Don, and Kelly, and Tina, and Doc, and Justice for Kilo, and Guitarista 67, Sleuthy Kitty, Hoppers, Doppers. Everyone is here. And Suds, Doug Boyd. Wow, it's freezing here. It's got to be in the 60s. The 60s? I think Chicago is like 50s, so 40s maybe. I just have hot water, guys, today. Nothing fancy because we have a lot to cover. There is no time for tea. I just have some lukewarm water. Again, for those of you who are just entering here, okay, there's 62 of you. Why is there only 20 likes? You're literally here consuming this that I take time out of my very busy lifestyle to film for you guys. The least you could do is give it a like. You're in here consuming free information, right? So go ahead, give it a like. If you have not subscribed already, please subscribe. And also, a lot of you have told me that you are getting unsubscribed or that you're not getting notifications. I wonder why that is, right? When people like me and you spread the truth, it seems that we just get, the algorithm doesn't like truth tellers. We'll just put it that way, right? So, guys, whatever you do, don't drink the water in Idaho. I'm telling you, after watching this video footage of the police interacting with this naked professor. This professor is Professor Udeku. Again, go watch that video, then come back here. Otherwise, this is not going to make sense, right? So we know that the student, Alex Sorrell, turned in his professor, right? He called Moscow PD several times. He's like, hey, I have a feeling that my professor was the one involved in the IDAHO4, right? So in this new video footage that Lana from Truth and Transparency has released, it is insane. Because first, we hear the student, we hear Alex just letting loose. It's like somebody gave this guy truth serum. He's just spilling his freaking guts, and it sounds like he's being honest when he's answering this question, right? So he calls Moscow PD. Police officers like, okay, what's going on, Alex? You're calling us again. What's the problem? So Alex goes on to say, look, I have called several times. I told you guys several times that I thought that my crazy professor was involved, could have been involved in the IDAHO4, and you guys shut me down. He also goes on to say that he was shut down by the university as well. And then he mentions, pay close attention, he mentions having 4 separate audio recordings. I'm assuming with his professor. So because the student was so afraid, so concerned of the possibility of Professor Udeku being involved in the IDAHO4, he went to the university, right? According to what he's saying, he went to the university, and what did the university tell him? Alex says that they turned him away. And not only that, but that the university knew what was in those recordings and then willingly misled police officers, right? He also goes on to say that he knows that this case is about political power and that there is a lot of money behind all of this, and that his concern is that the truth is basically never going to get out because, again, the IDAHO4, according to the student, the true criminal, according to the student, the true criminal is Professor Udeku, is being protected by the university because, again, that would not be a good look for the university, right? To have a professor within your university that could have had a link to the students, and maybe, we are theorizing here, by the way, if he had any connections or if he had been or could have been the stalker of one of the victims, could there be a connection? Now, I'm going to be honest, right? When you go and watch Lana's video on this, tell me, leave a comment, how do you feel like, do you get the vibe that Alex is being realistic? Because a lot of people have said that he sounds like he's out of touch, like he's lost touch with reality in general. It's like some people said he sounds like he's lost his mind completely, right? So let me know in the chat. Do you think, if you have already watched this video with the video footage released by Lana at Truth and Transparency, does Alex, the student, sound mentally stable, mentally unstable? Does he sound like he has something wrong with him, or do you think he's being direct and telling the truth? Either way, does it even matter? Does it even matter? The reason I'm asking that is because when we have such a severe case of 4 young people being unalived in the middle of the early morning hours while they rested in their home, and a student has called the cops time and time again, pre-crime and post-crime, saying he has some concerns about the stability, the emotional stability of his professor, and Moscow PD didn't do anything about it. We can't just assume that Alex is mentally unstable, even though to some people he may sound this way. Why? Because this is a very serious crime, right? You can't just pick and choose what sounds right, what sounds wrong. You actually have to take the time and sift through all of the factual tips that you may have and then toss out what's not good. You don't just say, yeah, he sounds a little cuckoo, we're just gonna ignore this. You can't do that. Why? Because like Alex himself said in this recording, there are times where there have been terrorist professors. So yeah, you can't just pick and choose Moscow PD. I'm also very concerned, personally, I'm very concerned about what Alex is saying because it does kind of match. It kind of very accurately describes Moscow Police Department. It kind of very accurately describes University of Idaho, right? Them telling students, this is not a big deal. Let's not make a big deal about this. It's not really anything concerning. Let's not make a fuss. You guys know that I also talked about another case post IDAHO4 where frats were involved. They beat the living daylights out of another young man. It was like 40 plus people who showed up to his house and beat him up. He ended up in the hospital. And what did Scott Green do about that? Nothing, right? Zero, nada. And when we hear Alex talking about the school misleading the police about the 4 recordings, some people will say, well, that's a little bit out there, Nika. That's a little unbelievable. But you have to remember, again, when you follow the money and you understand how much revenue is being brought in to the entire town and surrounding towns by the university, then it kind of starts to make sense. When we hear Alex talk about corrupt politicians involved in the IDAHO4, then it kind of starts to make sense. Now, that's just the recording, and the cop is asking Alex, well, are you thinking about hurting this professor? He said, well, honestly, yeah, I have enough gas in my tank, 100 miles to get to Moscow and take this man out. I just don't know if I should burn him or use a gun because I want to do the right thing. I want the parents, I want retribution for the parents of the victims. What would they would rather have? So he's being straight up, direct, blunt with the cop, right? Then what do we see? Then we see the video footage of the cop going to Professor Udeku's home. Guys, if you have watched this footage, again, what the fuck is going on in Idaho? Is it the potatoes? Is it the water? What is it? Because this man, okay, he opens the door butt ass naked, right? This professor that was reported by Alex, his student, to potentially have been involved in the IDAHO4. Fine. It's 2:20 in the morning when the cop is going over to his house and he's saying, okay, we just got a call. One of your students is calling. He says, do you know Alex Sorrell? The professor says, yeah, that's the guy that reported me. And he said that I killed the 4 victims. They're like, yep. What's the last time you contacted him? Okay, after the crime. Fine, that was the last time they communicated. So, fine, right? He opens the door naked. But he's being interviewed. He's being questioned by this cop for like, I don't know, 15, 20 minutes, maybe even a little bit longer. And he just stands there butt ass naked the whole time. Like 5 minutes or so after he's being questioned by the cops, it looks like a female is in the background, right? Like a female just shows up and doesn't get him a robe, doesn't get him to cover up. And not only that, but the cop is just there, like, he just keeps talking. I'm like, I don't know if I should be more amused by the professor who's just like, he's like hunched over at the door, butt ass naked, continues to answer all the questions as if nothing is going on, or if I should be more amused by the cop who just keeps interrogating him, asking questions. Like, dude, can you let this man go grab some boxers or a robe or a towel? Something, right? Kimberly says, Idaho has very weird people there, in my opinion. Just noticed as I passed through over a decade or two ago. The most peculiarly cold type of people I have ever encountered in my life. Ew. I've never been to Idaho, and I'm sure that not everybody is like that, right? I'm sure that there's nice people everywhere, but I have heard that I've heard a lot of not good things. I've heard a lot of bad things about the locals there. Just strange things going on with the locals, with the way they interact. And somebody just sent me another whole case about, it was Jackson, right? That was accused of raping, because I can't say the word because they don't like it here. He was accused of that and carrying an illegal weapon, and there was like 3 or 4 charges, and they all got dropped except for the weapon. Just strange shit going on in Idaho. So what I took some notes, guys, of what Alex is saying in this whole very lengthy, very direct conversation he is having with the cop. And the cop, by the way, only asks Alex like 1 or 2 questions the whole time. Alex is just, he just keeps going and he just keeps talking and yapping and doesn't stop. He doesn't stop the whole time. So Alex says, well, yeah, my professor, you know, this professor, Udeku, he didn't want to go down as a bad professor. And I am speculating, but I think that he's referring to the professor going down as a bad professor, aka getting caught, right, for taking out 4 young people at 1122 King Road. Then he said, yeah, this is the type of man that is clad in black, you know. This is a 5'10" man. This is an athletic male, 30 to 40 years old. He said, this is the type of guy that would say, it's okay, I'm here to help you. He said, this is a microbial forensics expert. He said, I'm sure he always had a lot of extra DNA samples in his lab. He says, and I am also sure that he has a connection to Koberger. I'm sure he's very proud that he was able to pin all of this on Koberger for like an ego boost, is what Alex goes on to say, right? And go watch the other video, right? Go watch the other video because we go in depth about the professor and his background. Now that, to me, is information that should just not be dismissed. It should definitely be looked into. We are not saying, guys, because I know that people love to take snippets of my very long videos and skew them for their benefit. So don't do that. So yes, we are speculating, we are theorizing. Is it a clue? Is it a tip? Could this professor be involved in the Idaho 4? Is it possible that this University of Idaho professor could have had any interaction with any of the victims at the university? And if not, we could also turn this around on its head and say, well, Alex Sorrell, this student who is now in jail, he was arrested for stalking. He's still in jail. He seems to have a much longer stalking record than Brian Koberger. Why didn't they pin it on Alex? I'm not saying that they should, right? If he didn't do it. But I'm just saying they had other options. That being said, I found it very interesting that Alex, when he's talking to the cop, says, I told the university about the 4 recordings. They definitely knew about 2 recordings, and you guys, the cops, never reached out to me for the other 2. I wanted to reach out to you and tell you what I had, these 4 recordings involving this Professor Udekwu. But then when I heard on the news that, well, the killer had potentially stalked the victims, and I already have a stalking record, I was afraid to come forward. I was afraid to come to you guys, because then you probably pin it on me. And that's totally understandable from my point of view, right? I could understand why someone with a stalking record would not want to go to the police, even if they did have something of value pointing to a professor within U of I potentially being involved in the Idaho 4. It's not a good place to be. Let's see the chat. Rose says, how was the tape obtained? The professor is fired. I believe the professor is actually still working within the U of I system, because the last time I checked, which was a couple hours ago, his profile pic was still in there. So Rose, you need to go watch my other video on Professor Udekwu if you haven't. Happy Hound says, seems like everything changed around 2000. When I was there, the pastor of that church was Doug Wilson's father. Doug obviously decided he was interested in money and control and power. Yeah, I've also talked about that church and Doug Wilson, except I think that video got taken down because we know what's going on with the church and with Doug Wilson, right? So please, all of you guys, go watch this video over at Truth and Transparency. You need to watch this footage. The reaction of the professor when he opened the door was odd to me. Like, go put some freaking clothes on. He just stands there naked the whole time. That being said, I also found how Moscow PD responded was so unethical. So unethical. Let me tell you why. Because here we have Moscow PD picking up the phone and saying, yeah, what do you need, Alex? You're calling us again. What do you need? And Alex says, yeah, I want to kill this guy. this professor. I'm going to get retribution for the victims because he killed him, and I'm going to fix this. I'm going to make things even, basically, is what he's saying, right? I'm going to make this right for the victims and for the families. So he's threatening to kill Professor Udeku. Moscow PD then goes over to check on Professor Udeku. He's like, have you known this guy? When's the last time you talked to him? Does he know where you live? And the professor's like, I'm not going to go back to sleep now. Like, imagine, put yourself in the shoes of the professor. The cops are coming to tell you that somebody just threatened to unalive you, and now it's all good. Just go back to sleep. But we can't do anything about it, right? We're just Moscow PD. We suggest you wait until tomorrow. This is what they told them, guys. Just wait until tomorrow and file a report. So Professor Udeku is like, but like, he threatened me. Is there nothing I can do? And they're like, yeah, no, there's nothing we can do. You know, that doesn't really go against the Fourth Amendment. Like, he didn't really threaten you. Like, unless we have specifics, then it's not a threat. And I'm like, what the actual fuck? I don't know what else to say, how else to act towards Moscow PD, because every time I stop and I try to be nice to give these assholes the benefit of the doubt, I am yet again fucking disappointed. So if it's not a threat, then why bother coming to the house of this professor if you can't do anything about it? Well, it's not really a real threat. Then why are you here? And yes, by the way, people, it's considered a real threat. So I'm not sure where these Moscow PD officers went to school. Did they go to school? Did they even finish high school? Are they required to have finished high school? It's just all very strange. Now, there is something that I wanted to cover regarding this professor, because in the last video I uploaded where we talked about this professor, I asked you guys, what is that tattoo? I believe was on his left forearm. Yeah, left forearm. What is it of? Because to me, it looked like a snake, right? To me, it looked like a coiled snake. But apparently, I was wrong. Some of you guys came forward, you messaged me, and you said, Nika, that's not a snake. That is what appears to be a tattoo of a black knight with a feather in its head, looking kind of cartoonish. So I'm still not sure what that tattoo is. The pictures that I have seen of this professor are very blurry, so it's very hard to tell what the tattoo is. But so many of you guys told me that it looks more like a black knight than anything else. So I'm like, all right, well, most people get tattoos because they signify something, right? It's art, it signifies something. There are some people, sure, that get tattoos just because they like the drawing or whatever, right? So I decided to just Google, okay, what does a black knight tattoo stand for? Maybe it's nothing, maybe it's a clue. The history of the Black Knight myth. The Black Knight has been a prominent figure in folklore and mythology across various cultures for centuries. The Black Knight is often depicted as a mysterious and powerful figure clad in black armor, wielding a sword and mounted on a black horse. In the Western European tradition, the Black Knight is usually seen as a symbol of death, destruction, and tragedy. The origins of the Black Knight myth can be traced back to medieval Europe. During the Middle Ages, knights were regarded as the epitome of chivalry, honor, and bravery. However, with the rise of English and French knights, the Black Knight began to emerge as a symbol of evil that stood in opposition to the noble ideals of chivalry. In the English tradition, the Black Knight was portrayed as a villain who sought to cause harm and destruction. In French mythology, the German knight was associated with death and destruction, often depicted as a servant of the devil. In German folklore, the Black Knight was seen as a bringer of destruction and chaos, often associated with war and pestilence. Wow. The legend of the Black Knight represents our fascination with darkness, danger, and death. It is a reminder, oh my God, this is dark. Why would anyone get a Dark Knight tattoo? If, you know, like the Black Knight tattoo, if it's mostly what it sounds like, a symbol of death. And again, maybe it's not even that, right? It's very blurry to tell the tattoo. I'm going to attach this picture of this professor again, because I need all of you guys to please weigh in, leave a comment after I upload the video fully in the thumbnail. I want to know, what do you see? Is it a Black Knight or is it something else? Because if it's a Black Knight, it's crazy. It says the legend of the Black Knight is a reminder that even in the midst of light, there are shadows lurking, waiting to pounce, and reminding us of the fragility of human existence. What in the actual fuck? That being said, this is speculation. This is a theory. These are just my theories. And I also really need to know what you guys think about Alex. Do you think he is unstable? Or do you think he's stable and just sounds crazy because he maybe has some insight into the truth? And by the way, in the first video I talked, where I talked about Alex and the professor, Alex did talk about the audio recordings, and he also talked about the professor showing him some very gory slides. So my concern is, has anyone at all investigated these audio recordings or these gory slides that Alex was talking about? You know, is there any truth to this? Or is this just crazy nonsense? I don't know. I'm losing my mind regarding all of this crap that keeps coming out. I'm going to let you guys go. I've been on here, oh my gosh, 32 minutes. And I see Kimberly. Let's see the chat before I head out. I do want to talk about the new documents, guys. The DP death penalty document just dropped last night. I believe it was last night. We need to talk about it sooner than later. Sooner than later. There's something orange on my phone. Hi, thank you. $20. Chuck B, did you watch my first video on the professor? Please go watch the video. I have all the details there. All the details. Professor Udekwu. But I have his full name listed on that video. I believe it's in the description maybe. But I have all his details there. And again, if you just Google Professor Udekwu, U of I, he's gonna pop up. He's gonna pop up. Thank you for the $20. I really appreciate it. Suds, wait, Nika, I want to help you to the 500, but I don't want YouTube to get a percentage. How can we solve this? YouTube always gets a percentage. When you guys give through here, they take 30%. YouTube keeps 30%. And if you're donating from an Apple device, then there's 20% goes to Apple. So we only keep 50%. But if you leave money through Cash App, I don't have Zelle, I don't have any, I only have Cash App. Cash App, I will keep 100%. Well, not I, but I will set it aside for the veterans. So yeah, it's crazy. It's crazy. But what are we going to do, right? And now I have to do the math because I think now we might be up to like 370, I believe. And the goal is 500. So we'll get there. You don't have Cash App in Canada. I'm so sorry. You guys have a wonderful night. If I have time later, I have to get back on here. We need to cover the new documents that just dropped last night on this DP case. The motion, very important documents we have to cover. And yes, I know I still have to talk about Olivia. Olivia. That's all I'm gonna say for now. I promise I will eventually get to that. I just need more time. I need to work less, guys. I'm tired. But I have a family to feed. So take care. Thank you for always joining me in these live chats. I always have fun with you guys. Let me know if you enjoyed this video. Leave a like if you are consuming this free information that we're putting out there. All of us, guys, we're doing this because we want justice. When we talk about professors or students that may or may not be involved in the Idaho 4, we're not doing this for views. We're doing this because we want to look at all the information, all of the tips. And like some of you guys mentioned in the chat, regardless of Alex's mental stability, this is still something that should have been looked into. And it looks like it wasn't, which is a big problem. So you guys have a wonderful night. Let me know in the chat what you are planning to do this weekend, or leave a comment. And have a wonderful weekend, guys. Take care. Bye-bye. I need a nap.